I'm strung out on your love.
How's it going, guys? It's me, Captain Kane. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm showing you why you should buy the iPhone XR this year to replace your iPhone 6s. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So first, we're going to be looking at the iPhone 6s. The iPhone 6s I have is a rose gold. It's a 5.44 by 2.64 inch body with a 4.7 inch display. Come on to the display a bit later. It weighs 143 grams, which is quite a bit lighter compared to the iPhone XR, which I'll talk about in a bit. As you can see, it's very slim and it's all made out of aluminium, and it comes in 4 color variants: space grey, silver, gold and rose gold. And as you just saw there, it also has a headphone jack, unlike the iPhone XR, which is something we lost as soon as Apple released the iPhone 7 and they took the headphone jack away because of courage. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be taking off the case. You don't have to have a case, but I highly recommend it because if you grip this phone really tight, it gets uncomfortable after a while. Mainly because it's quite a thick phone compared to the iPhone 6s. It's not as slim as that. It's about twice the thickness. It has a glass back and aluminium sides. It also has IP67 water resistance, so you can plunge it in water for 1 meter for 30 minutes. 194 grams weight, so it is a little bit heavier. You can feel it if you go and hold this thing. It is a little bit heavier than the iPhone 6s. It has a 6.1 inch all screen display, apart from that notch. 5.94 by 2.98 inch body. It comes in black, white, blue, yellow, red and coral. So why not buy a different colour for this phone? That's the main selling point after all. The iPhone 6s has a Retina HD display, as Apple call it. The Retina HD display has a 1334 by 750 resolution at 326 pixels per inch. It supports full standard RGB color, and it also has 3D touch and 500 nits peak brightness. The iPhone XR has a liquid Retina HD display, which is 1792 by 828 pixel resolution at 326 pixels per inch. Now, you may have watched some other tech reviewers say that the iPhone XR's screen is not 1920 by 1080, it's not viewing full 1080p. There's nothing to be concerned about there. It looks completely fine, at least it's better than the iPhone 6s's screen. It's because people are comparing it to the iPhone XS or the normal 10, and they say that the OLED panel looks so much better than the LCD panel. The LCD panel looks completely fine. In fact, it's one of the best LCD screens on the market. You'd have to have an OLED panel right next to the LCD panel, or an iPhone XS right next to an iPhone XR, to decipher the differences between them. But apart from that, I'm getting off topic now. This is supposed to be about the 6s, but yeah, it's a great upgrade from that screen to the next one. The iPhone XR supports wide color, so you'll be able to see extra colors, unlike the iPhone 6s. And it also supports haptic touch instead of 3D touch, with basically haptic touch. If you long press a particular thing on the screen, it brings up the menu as if you're 3D touching it, which is kind of unfortunate. To be honest, I thought it was going to be worse when I first saw this. But it's not even that bad, because I used to use 3D touch all the time myself to get to extra menus, but now that iOS 13's out and it supports more of these features using haptic touch, it's not too bad. The iPhone XR also has something called True Tone, which makes the colours a little bit warmer depending on what environment you're in, and it also has 625 nits brightness. Feel free to pause the video and take a look at those differences. And also take a look at the differences between the displays right there. As you can see, the iPhone XR is much brighter than the iPhone 6s, you can kind of tell. Now we are going to move on to the performance test. Now, if you already know what's coming, you're going to know that the iPhone XR is going to be much faster than the iPhone 6s. Then feel free to skip over later into the video to find out how the cameras do. But if you want to find out how performance wise these phones do, then feel free to keep watching right now. So, how would you use the phones? Well, of course, we all know how to use the 6s. It's the most simplest way. You can either raise to wake, That applies to both phones, of course, or you can press the home button and then scan your thumb or finger, whatever, and then it brings you straight in. So how does this work with the iPhone XR? Well, you have Face ID and you can also tap to wake the screen, so you don't have to keep like pressing the button or raising to wake the phone up. You can literally just tap the screen anywhere whilst it's off and then bang, you're straight in. So speaking from my experience, Face ID is pretty good. It is better in iOS 13 because in iOS 12, before I updated my phone, it was pretty slow, and I'm expecting then it probably would have been slower when the first iPhone 10 was released. But I'd still prefer Touch ID over Face ID because it's so simple and much quicker, because with Face ID it requires your attention. Of course you can turn that off, but it's just you have to like look over and glance at the phone in order for it to unlock so it can actually properly see your face. Whereas with Touch ID, you don't have to raise the phone or anything to unlock your phone. You don't have to put your face into the camera's like positioning. You can literally just put your thumb on it and then you're straight in. So I'd probably prefer Touch ID over Face ID, but overall Face ID is still amazing. It works great in the dark, in any environment, but it just requires that extra little effort to glance over at the phone. So right here is an example of what 3D touch can do. Unlike haptic touch, you can literally just switch between apps just by force pressing the left side of the screen and then pulling out from the left, and then bang, you're right into your app switcher and you can switch between apps. And this is something you can't do with haptic touch because it doesn't detect that pressure you're putting on the display. Also, just a quick little feature that also comes with the iPhone XR, unlike the iPhone 6s, because the iPhone 6s first introduced the Taptic engine, which was basically a new vibration motor to bring new vibrations, quick short ones, to the iPhone, and it's much improved on the iPhone XR, so you get to feel these synchronized type of vibrations that go with your ringtone. Just have a listen to this vibration, if you can just hear it. Imagine it with the ringtone now. And it just works really well. Now, moving on to the speakers. So the iPhone XR has a stereo speaker, which means you can hear left to right audio when you hold your phone horizontal. Whereas the iPhone 6s speaker only has a speaker at the bottom, so only, well, plays out the bottom, pretty self-explanatory. So let me pick this random song out of my library, and without trying to get myself copyrighted, I'll play it. And look at me when I realise it's not even the full volume. I think that's enough now. Without trying to get myself copyrighted, that was a really stupid music choice. But as you know, the iPhone XR is all gesture based instead of using the home button. So to get up to the app switcher, you swipe up from the bottom and hold in about the center, and then the app switcher pops up. Now, onto battery. Now, I'm going to put up right now that my iPhone 6s graph about the battery is not going to be that accurate because I haven't been using the phone. I left it on charge, just sitting there on my bed desk, whilst I'm actually using the iPhone XR. And as you can see, the battery life is excellent. It always stays around like the 80s or something throughout the day when I don't really use it that much. When I go out and use it heavily, I'll always end my day in about like 40% or something, or even down to 20 if it's really heavy. But it always lasts throughout the day. So for example, if you were to like use your iPhone 6s and end the day on like 20%, on your iPhone XR you'd probably end the day on about, let's say, 40 to 50%. And that's fairly accurate. It's not 100% accurate, but that's just a prediction. And also the iPhone XR battery has a 2942 milliamp hour, which is 71% larger than the 1715 milliamp hour battery in the iPhone 6s. Double checking that the phones have no apps open in the background. I'll leave a test running in the background, speed test. And whilst that's happening, I'm going to get onto technical talk right here, so prepare yourselves. Some of you may understand this, most of you may not. So the iPhone XR has an A12 Bionic chip, compared to the iPhone 6s's A9 chip. 3GB of RAM in the XR. 6s has 2GB of RAM. They both support iOS 13. And this is probably going to be the last operating system for the iPhone 6s, the last update. It will support all of iOS 13, and then iOS 14 will continue for the XR. There is wireless charging support, and it supports an 18 fast watt charger on the iPhone XR, whereas the 6s doesn't support neither of them. And that's pretty much all you need to know for performance. But as you can see, the iPhone XR is pretty much loading stuff up slightly faster than the iPhone 6s. So I'm pretty sure you'd be able to get through day-to-day usage with the iPhone 6s. But the XR is just for that little speed that you need in performance. Just before I move on to the next thing, I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and try out Fortnite on both these phones. Just for any mobile gamers out there who are just like, yeah, I want to play on an iPhone XR. And I'm on an iPhone 6s. I don't know how you cope with it if you do play on that. But basically, the battery drains so much when I first launched the game. And it just took ages to load the iPhone 6s. Was it even worth trying this in the first place? I'm not sure. But as you could see, there's 60 FPS frame limit on the iPhone XR, whereas on the iPhone 6s, you're capped at 30 and low settings. So little obvious stuff right there. And finally, for the camera, which is probably what everyone came here for, but I've left best till last, if you're still watching the video. So I'm just going to leave all the information about the cameras up on the screen right now for you to read, because I literally just want to show you examples, and I'm sure not many people will care about me reading out every single thing about each camera. But for the examples, this is footage recorded at 4K and 60 frames per second. Make sure that you have your quality turned up on YouTube, because you're not going to be able to watch it properly. Unless you're on a 10R and you can't view actual 1080p because it's literally only 17 something by 8 something. But I'm not one of those tech reviewers, so you know. Now, I was only carrying the 10R when we were walking about in the woods and all that, so I only was able to take photos on the 10R, but I tried to simulate what photos would be like if you're on the 6S, trying to focus on a particular area in the photo. Sometimes the sun would be too overexposed, and then sometimes it would be too dark on the woody areas. I tried to simulate that as much as possible with the camera. So of course the quality isn't going to be like a 6S, and it's going to look a little bit better because it's on the 10R. But I tried to simulate what it would be like if you're trying to focus on a particular area, and this is trying to simulate what the HDR would be like. But then if you come to look over at the 10R's photo without any focus or anything, the Smart HDR kicks in, and from my knowledge, Smart HDR tries to level out brightness of everything and just make it look natural. And I know I'm over exaggerating it when I showed the iPhone 6s examples trying to simulate it, but it's just a slight accurate representation of what it would actually be showing. And I'm pretty sure many of you will know what the portrait feature is. It's trying to simulate a DSLR camera, trying to blur out the background. And it also has a few more features, as you can see on the screen right now. You can change how much those features are affecting the photo generally, and you can also change the depth of the blur with the aperture thing at the bottom. Just swap it around and then see what kind of blur suits you. But yeah, I think that's about it as far as it goes for the video. Hopefully it did help you out. It did take me a while to make, plan, and prepare, and then produce this video. A like would be greatly appreciated if it did help you out. Feel free to subscribe. I don't know where this channel is going. We're kind of moving off the gaming scene and moving on to technical stuff, I guess. But I want to try moving back to gaming soon, so stay subscribed for that if you're ready for that. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.